My next guest has been an autistic advocate for many years, spending 25 years within the adult autism communities. She herself is autistic and worked for Altogether Autism. Over the years, she's grown more and more concerned with what she has seen as a rise in neurodiversity movement, more autistic people, as I said, thinking they are trans. Paula Jessop has asked repeatedly for evidence-based material, referring to the CAS report relating to autism, which recommends a watch and wait approach. But she feels that the organisations in New Zealand won't take any stance except acceptance and inclusion. And Paula joins me now. Paula, lovely to meet you.
Hi.
Firstly, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Paula, and your background within autism communities?
Yeah, so before I start, can I just ask that you do me a favour, and if I head off on tangents or don't notice that you like to say something, if you could just put your hand up. This is
Sure.
because people like myself, we can't read non-verbal cues like face expressions very well, so that's kind of helpful to keep me on track.
Alrighty.
I'll also say a quick hello to the other people who I engage in discussion and debate in the comments with regularly. But yeah, a bit about me. I was diagnosed many years ago with Asperger's, and probably about 10 years after that, I decided that I wanted to start trying to proactively do things to help improve the complete lack of services or supports that we had at that point in time. So I met a few other Asperger's people around the country who felt the same way, and we embarked on trying to lobby the autism organisations to start including services for Asperger's adults, and we started lobbying the government to include us in advisory groups that were relevant to services again for autistic people or their families. And so over the years, I've been in a range of roles. I started with Altogether Autism, working with them in a voluntary unpaid capacity. Later, they invited me to work it was a paid part-time capacity. It was about 15 hours a month, or I would work with them on individual projects. So for a while, they had me giving presentations around the country for them. But most of the advocacy work I've done has usually been unpaid. At the moment, I sit on the steering group for the New Zealand Autism Research Centre. We're all doing that unpaid just to get something going. So a lot of the time, the things we do for advocacy, this is not a job. We don't make money out of it. We just try to find our way to being able to represent autistic people and their families, because in New Zealand there is very low representation for us and for parents as well. So that's what we do.
So Paula,
but myself increasingly less so.
Okay. Can I ask you introduced yourself as Asperger's. I'm aware of Asperger's, but is it no longer called that? Does it fall under autism?
Yeah, I can't remember what year it was now, but at a certain point, the DSM, which is the Diagnostic Manual for Mental Health Disorders, created in America. When the DSM-5 came out, they decided to get rid of a diagnosis of Asperger's, and there was a couple of other diagnoses as well that they got rid of, and they rolled it all into autism level 1, 2, or 3. So in the past, we used to call ourselves Asperger's. I used to call myself an Aspie because I'm not very good at pronouncing the word. But after they rolled us all into autism, then we switched to using the word autism. And it was my understanding the purpose for doing that at the time was that around the world we were referred to as mildly autistic or high functioning, and what that tended to mean was the situation we had in New Zealand. You're high functioning autism, well therefore you're not disabled, you don't need any help, you don't need any services, you don't need any supports. And to have a diagnosis of autism, you must have a level of impairment and disability, or you don't meet the criteria for a diagnosis.
Ah.
So they rolled the diagnosis into autism level 1, 2, and 3 to try and show that even having mild autism, as they used to think of it, was still disabling and impacted on a person's daily life, meaning needing support and assistance. So yeah, so I'm autism level 1. Autism level 3 is they are the people who do not have spoken language and have very high support needs and usually require 24/7 care for life.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's the other
So,
end
so,
of the spectrum.
so it affects people differently.
Mm,
Your one level one. So can you give us some of the, you've mentioned reading faces,
mm.
or cues like that. What other things may someone that has autism struggle with?
Yeah, so I mean, at the heart of autism is that it is a social and communication disability. So for a person with autism level 1, the social disability may show up in that we don't know how to socialize appropriately. We really
Right.
don't. I have an autistic friend that shows up at my house and just stands there. And I said to him the other day, I says, now when you arrive, knock on the door. And he said, oh, am I meant to do that? And I said, yes. When you arrive at someone's house, you knock on the door. Very simple social things we find very difficult to understand. The
Mm.
communication, actually with the socializing, there's a spectrum of that. I used to work as a support worker, and I had clients who were sort of in the level 2 kind of area, and they can't really safely go out into the public on their own because, for example, they might think that anybody who has been friendly to them is their friend, because they don't understand other social dynamics. With the communication difficulties, so a level 1 person like myself,
Mm.
I have very inconsistent ability to read nonverbal cues. Some days I can read face expressions and body language, and other days it just goes completely over my head, and I'll sit there talking at someone for 20 minutes while they are completely not interested, and I won't notice.
Sure.
But someone who is, say, a level 3 autism will have possibly, like I said, that they may be impaired with language in that they can't use spoken language at all. And then I've
Mm.
got other friends that are in the middle. I've got quite a good autistic friend of mine. She's a very intelligent woman. She's at university studying, but language for her brain processes very slowly. So whenever she speaks, someone talks to her, it takes her quite a long time to then respond and get the words out. And we have these strange experiences at times, like even a level 1 autistic person like myself, if we get really stressed and overwhelmed, we may actually find it very difficult to actually speak at all. So, for example, I was in an airport one time. I had become very stressed and overwhelmed. I don't know how I looked, but an airport person came up to me and said, "Are you all right?" And all I could say was, "I'm autistic." And thankfully, that person was obviously trained in autism, and he knew exactly what to do for a person like me. So so all of us have a level of communication challenge, just like as I asked you to use some hand signals. My challenge
Yeah.
is often that someone asks me a question and I take 15 minutes to answer
Yeah,
it. Um,
Oh, I've got another
right?
question. I've got a question, Paula.
Yeah.
You say that over the years you've grown more and more concerned with what you believed is the rise in the neurodiversity movement. What exactly
Mm.
is that?
Well, I was a part of the neurodiversity movement for a long time, and the neurodiversity movement has been very similar to the trans activist movement, where we used being able to connect with each other around the world online, predominantly through Facebook, to formulate methods to try to send the same messages out into the public all around the world all at once. So
Mm.
one of the first things that we wanted to do is we wanted to destigmatize language. We wanted to create a new language. And you'll very commonly see in the media and articles now these words neurodiversity, neurodivergent, neurodiverse. That was us. That was something that we planned internationally, that we would spend years going out there and saying, we want to change the language, we want to change the language. So I did that within the autism sector.
Mm.
As did a couple of other friends of mine. We basically, every time we went to any event, we were networking or giving presentations, we just kept chanting this message. We want the language changed. We want you to use neurodiversity. In the same way that you hear with trans activism, trans woman a woman, trans woman a woman, trans woman a woman. This was
Right.
something that we networked online and deliberately decided we're going to create these unified narratives and we're going to chant them and chant them and chant them until people pick up on it and do it. And it all started in a very positive way. And the neurodiversity movement is a large political and social international movement. The aim is to try and reduce our marginalisation in society because we are very marginalised in society. We're very disadvantaged. 75% of us in New Zealand, we think, are unemployed or underemployed. We're
Wow.
all sitting on benefits. 50 to 80% of people on the autism spectrum experience ongoing serious mental health issues, and it's ignored. So the neurodiversity movement is a strong international movement to try and show that we need help in
Right.
society.
Right. But
And
has
that
it
was all
changed,
very
Paula?
positive.
Has it morphed into something else?
Yes, yes. So probably the last 5 to 7 years, I started finding it very toxic. It coincided with when everybody started talking about cancel culture and toxic
Mm.
dynamics online. That's exactly what started happening in our community. People became very passionate about social justice, left progressive politics. Um, and the dynamics changed from positive interaction and sharing ideas and having discussions and formulating ideas and that type of thing to advocates who were popular online deciding like that they were in charge and telling everybody what they were allowed to say, think, and do. Um, and I didn't agree, and so I very much became a target for a lot of those advocates. They tried to proactively cancel me, but
Mm.
it just I mean it's still very strange now. Like for example, at a certain point, I thought it was a good idea to try and address language, to try and destigmatize language, but we achieved that, but
Mm.
now they're still just hyper focused on language all the time, and I don't know the ideas. It's hard to explain, but it just became internally very very toxic and very. It was like the loudest, most aggressive voices just took over and
Right.
bullied
So
everybody else into submission.
can we then look at, do you feel then are those with autism more susceptible to gender dysmorphia, or do you believe they're being convinced that they are trans?